they're one of the best teams in the tournament. They can win it, without a doubt. They can win it, especially if they beat us, obviously, because I think then they'd get through to the final relatively easy. Because it'd probably be like Sweden in the quarters, then the Netherlands in the semis. That's an easy as run as you're gonna get, really.
Yeah, I mean we got it out of the group. See, the thing is, I'd preferred Hungary, but a couple of goals from they were like 2 goals away, and some rather dodgy decisions, in my opinion, from Germany going out at the group stages yet again at the bottom of the group. So I don't think Germany are actually. Maybe it's just that they were in a group of death or something, but I don't rate Germany. I don't think they're as dominant as they used to be.
No, I don't think they are. I don't think anywhere close. I mean, the manager's leaving after this tournament. I'm
surprised he wasn't gone off the last one, honestly.
So was I. I was
losing to Mexico and South Korea is not.
Well, it's going out in the groups, isn't it? But it's also the way they went out.
Yeah, I mean, like they're losing to teams that they should have easily walked.
Yeah, something went drastically wrong for them. I'm not sure what, but they just didn't perform, did they? Which was great to watch. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed it. But
yeah, me and my mate Sam have worked out that whenever we watch Germany lose. So
watch them. Right, there we go. So edit title and description. Bang that bad boy in there. You can't put tags in properly though. You can put hashtags, but you can't put tags in when it's live.
You have to scroll down into the advanced options, I think.
Oh, is that where it is?
Yeah, it's it's very silly.
It is very silly. I wouldn't say that's advanced options, but there you go.
I don't know, mate. The thing I don't like most is that stuff doesn't turn up. Like, it doesn't keep the formatting of the Google Doc, like when stuff's bolded and things like that. So you have to go in and space things out yourself and then bold it yourself. And
yeah.
Not a fan.
Got to do all that. Where are the advanced? I know where they are. Post. No, I don't see it here. I think you can do it after it's gone live, but there's no place to put it here. There's no advanced option.
Oh yeah, no, you have to do it like while it's live and then dump them in that way.
Yeah.
You need someone else to do it, really.
Yeah, that'd be handy, right?
See, that's the problem. We're getting to the point where we're going to the point where we need a second person on the live stream to get stuff for us and mod it and things like that. But
we do need a person to mod, don't we?
Well, yeah, we need a person to mod for Ruby's sake, at least. Because the thing is, I looked when I did it the day later, nothing, absolutely nothing. They wouldn't, they weren't watching or it didn't come out of the woodwork. So it's definitely targeted. So, and it's sort of one of the things I've learned about. Oh, there's Tom. One of the things I've learned about moderation is you can't have that happen to your staff, obviously.
No, of course.
You got to nip that out.
It's just abhorrent behavior in the workplace, effectively, from people that you can't truly control. You can delete the comments and report them, but you can't stop them coming in there. So there we go. You're right there, Tom.
Afternoon, gentlemen.
How are we doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Got plenty to talk about after quali.
Yeah.
Just going to put my phone in Do Not Disturb.
Always good. I've figured out how to turn my notifications off on my browser from Facebook because they always come through with messages, but I've turned them off now.
Yeah, I turned that off. I think probably about half an hour after I turned it on the first time. I've just kept it the same way ever since. It's just like nope. Yeah, less is more when it comes to notifications.
Oh, definitely.
But how do you get your small dopamine hit every couple of minutes?
I ignore social media. That's how I do it.
So you get it naturally off, things that you should be getting it off rather than the little ding of your phone in the corner.
Yeah, what's wrong with you, Tom? What the hell?
An easier answer is what's right with me at the moment.
No, that is a good thing to do. That's a good thing to do. I've only got Facebook now as my personal social media. I've got rid of all the others. I can't be bothered.
Well, I've got Facebook mainly for groups. So like Formula One groups, some car related groups, the group for the gym I'm in, and some rugby stuff. That's all I use it for.
Actually, nice. When's the Lions? I've just remembered the Lions game is on today, isn't it? When is it?
Yeah, it's on right now. So on my other screen.
Ah.
Yeah, we got. it's half time. They're 21-0 up, but there's been a couple of injuries.
That's a shame.
I'm just going to close that as well.
I didn't know when it started, to be honest.
It started as quali finish, so I was like hot swapping between channels.
Wales playing Denmark today in the Euros.
Yeah, that kicks off at 5 o'clock, so I've got a lot of sport to be watching today.
Well, we'll get done by then. Don't worry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
No, it should be a good game. That is one of the ones where it's like it could easily go either way. I mean, obviously, I'm a little biased, but I'm I think Wales have done well so far. But I do want to see Denmark go through just because of Eriksen. Everything that's happened to him. I'd love to see them go deep into the tournament, but we'll see what happens because he's a big player to miss for them. He's their star man.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
So, what about there?
Just going to pull up the qualifying results because I'll no doubt say someone is 17th when they're 14th.
It was a bit confusing, to be fair, because the Astons had laps deleted in Q2 for track limits, didn't they? So it changed it all right.
Yeah, it was both Astons and Sainz. They all had lap times deleted for.
Oh, Sainz did as well.
Yeah. Because Sainz was 11th, and then he then dropped to 13th. But then because Seb also had a lap time deleted, that pushed Seb down to 14th, which pushed Sainz back up to 12th. And it's just like it's a bit like a game of like connect the dots or something.
I wish that like the F1 site at least told you what tyre they were using and stuff for their fastest lap times in each session, because otherwise it's very, very difficult to compare.
That's a very good point, actually.
I think the only guys that got through, I might be wrong, but I think the only guys that got through on mediums were the Mercedes and Verstappen. Perez took softs, the McLaren took softs.
I think
Didn't Hamilton go back out on softs because his mediums run wasn't great?
He went out on a medium.
He went back out on mediums and then had 3 runs in Q3 on the soft. Because did Bottas go back out on softs or mediums?
I don't think he went out for another run because his lap was pretty good in Q2.
Yeah, even though his engineer tried to tell him otherwise to begin with.
Yeah, it was just like
it's not good enough.
Cross the line, not good enough, mate. You're gonna need better than that.
Yeah. Oh, poor Bottas.
Just you're bad. Try again.
Yeah, and then Bottas basically went okay, hun, and then put it third.
Okay, hon. Oh, where are they?
Results.
We've had a review and we've had a very nice comment on YouTube. So nice. We're going to read it out, and we don't normally do that.
Oh, lovely.
I've saved it, but I can't. You can tell I work in IT. I've saved it on my phone, but I can't bloody find it.
Just give us a minute. This is technology.
Honestly, I literally click save on Slack. It's not. It's not done it.
Well, that's the problem. You're using Slack.
Yeah, evidently that is the problem.
What do you mean we're not using Microsoft Teams? I say you. What do you mean we're not using Microsoft Teams?
I'd prefer Teams to Zoom. Just putting it out there.
Yeah.
What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to read out one and then read out one later on because they're in totally different parts of the Slack. Oh, professionalism is its finest as always.
What's your area of IT then, George?
It's mainly systems in retail that we work in.
Right.
So as there are big clients, do a lot of stuff for them.
Right. Are you more sort of like infrastructure? Are you more sort of like software dev, network security?
Well, we do both of those, but I'm in like the project coordination kind of side of things, like organize. So I don't do the heavy IT stuff. I don't do the programming and stuff. I would love to, but I've never done it before.
Don't you have a master's in aerodynamics or something?
No, that's Jack.
I was thinking of the wrong.
I've got a bachelor's in automotive engineering.
Oh, wow, automotive engineering. It's like
somehow did it, yeah.
Still impressive though.
Thank you.
Honestly, that's just a bit of needle because I'm an electrical engineer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a network and infrastructure sort of.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
that's a voodoo magic to me. I'll be honest. I've tried to get my head around it. Like I can understand most things when it comes to that side of things, but once it gets to networking, I'm just.
Yeah, if I start talking about MPLS or SD-WAN, you're probably just going to start glazing over. So
sorry, what?
Glazed, yeah,
exactly.
Just immediately.
Exactly, yeah. It's lots of numbers and lots of me sitting there going on my fingers.
Right, lads, shall we get going?
Yeah,
let's do it.
I'm going to turn the fan off just in case there's a lot of.
Cheers.
A Red Bull on pole for a race around the Red Bull Ring. It seems like it's already written in the stars for Max Verstappen to win tomorrow, but can Sir Lewis Hamilton spoil his and the Dutch fans' party? Welcome back to the Grid Talk podcast, everybody. This is episode number 115, where we'll be analysing qualifying for the 2021 Styrian Grand Prix. I'm your host, George Howson, and join me today are engineering graduate Owain Medford.
Hello.
And Tom from the EF1 podcast.
Hello.
Afternoon, lads. Good to have you here. It was a great qualifying session today, but before we get into that, I am just going to read out a lovely review that we've had on iTunes from Minderful in Canada. They've put, awesome job, love this podcast, love that you guys cover more than just the race and all the interesting viewpoints. Glad I discovered it. Cheers. And thank you as well, Minderful, for that. And if you guys listening now, give us a 5-star review on iTunes, we will give you a shout out at the start of the show. So thank you very much to him for that. So like I mentioned right at the start there, Tom, your man Max Verstappen got pole position. I think that's back-to-back pole positions for him now. He's at the Red Bull Ring. It seems destined really for him to win tomorrow. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, Max is arguably my favorite driver, and I'd like to see him win tomorrow. But seeing the lap he put together today, starting on the front row, and with that Honda power unit being seemingly the quickest unit on the grid now, it's looking good for him tomorrow.
Yeah, it's looking very good for him indeed, but he'll have a challenger on the front row in the form of Sir Lewis Hamilton, and he's not going to take it lying down. I'd say he didn't have the fastest car in France, but he challenged Verstappen all the way in that one. So could we see some different strategies from the top two tomorrow?
I think we're going to need to, because to be honest, I don't actually think Hamilton did an amazing job. I think he was actually at risk, to be honest, and he was lucky to take what will be second on the grid tomorrow. And I think I think Mercedes will need to play about with it, because I think there's just certain advantages that Verstappen has. If nothing else, it's the confidence, because Hamilton has now started behind Verstappen for a number of races, and Verstappen seemed to have the measure of him. Even when Lewis does make a good start, a better start than Verstappen through the first couple of corners. I think Mercedes will need to sort of lick their wounds and do a better job than they did. They got a little bit caught out last week by just how quick the undercut and how powerful the undercut was. I don't think maybe that would be so much the case in Austria. But I think they need to sort of play around with the strategy a bit and be a bit creative. They've shown willingness to do that, at least with the sort of 3 runs that Lewis was given in Q3. So I hope they can continue that, and hopefully it pays off for them.
Yeah, he's definitely got a chance, Hamilton. Like I said, he starts on the front row of the grid tomorrow, and the undercut is always something you can try, especially if you're in behind you, because you can always see whether the guy ahead of you has already gone into the pits or not. The undercut is something that always favours the person behind, and that could well be Hamilton. But saying that, Verstappen, he started on pole in France and he went wide in the first corner, and Austria is one of them tracks where that could easily happen again, especially down into turn 3 as well in the first lap. But the guy who actually qualified in P2, set the second fastest time, Tom, was Valtteri Bottas, but he'll start down in P5 as it stands at the moment, thanks to an embarrassing spin in practice. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a good showing from Bottas today. He's definitely had a tough time this year, and his weekend didn't start well with that pirouette in the pit lane, shall we say? But he pieced together some good laps in qualifying, especially after his engineer came over the radio in Q2 and said, almost immediately said, "We're not safe. You're going to have to go again." And then I think in Q2 he ended at P3 anyway. P2 ahead of his teammate Hamilton couldn't hook it up today, and Hamilton did have 2 extra laps. Obviously, starting from fifth, I believe Bottas is starting on the medium tyre as well. I think both Mercedes went through on the mediums in Q2. I can't remember offhand. Whether Mercedes will use Bottas perhaps as almost a sort of like hold up for Hamilton to try and then get use Bottas as a hold up against Verstappen to get a better strategy for Hamilton. We will see tomorrow.
Yeah, team tactics could definitely come into it, and Mercedes don't have the advantage really in terms of that because, yeah, even though Bottas is qualified second, he will start behind Sergio Perez as it stands. Perez will move up to fourth. But in between all that, in between that Red Bull and Mercedes sandwich, is a nice papaya filling, Owain. And Lando Norris, again, I mean, yes, we talk about him a lot. I'm sure some people are getting sick of it, but at the end of the day, he was half a tenth off Lewis Hamilton in a Mercedes. He'll line up third tomorrow on the clean side of the grid around a track that McLaren do well at and that he does well at. He could really spring a surprise tomorrow.
Yeah, last year, obviously, Norris managed to get, I believe it was a podium.
Last lap Lando.
Yeah, and
fastest lap too.
Well, yeah, and that was from a lot further back, if I remember correctly. Obviously, the McLaren went well in France. And they started a lot further back. So if they can continue that performance, I really think Lando's coming into his stride. Norris is actually doing a really great job. It seems that he's really gelling with it and he's really getting on with it. And that wasn't a one-off occurrence. That was numerous times he was up in third and fourth place over the course of quali. So I think that's genuine. There's genuine one-lap pace in the car. I think the car's got race pace. I hope they haven't sacrificed one to get the other. But that's a really, really promising result, and it could cause some real fly in the ointment for both of the top teams. That Red Bull and Mercedes could be troubled by the fact that there's a really annoying McLaren in there that's buzzing around and could take it could pick up the pieces should there be any coming together at all.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's right up there at the end of the day. If he gets a decent start tomorrow, he'll be up there. And especially if he's doing some sort of alternate strategy as well. I think he's the highest placed driver on the softs off the line as well. So it's not the better race tyre, but he will be on an alternate strategy to a lot of the guys around him. So yeah, Lando Norris could really spring a surprise tomorrow. And he's the only guy as well so far to score in every race. Not even Verstappen and Hamilton have done that. So he is Mr. Consistency at the moment. But yeah, we'll move on to Verstappen's teammate, Sergio Perez, Tom. And he was looking a bit shaky in qualifying. He was struggling in Q1 and Q2, I believe, to get out of the drop zone and make it through to final qualifying. But in the end, he'll line up fourth. It's not bad, but you can't help but feel you want a little bit more from him.
Yes. I mean, how many times in the past have we heard about the curse of the second Red Bull seat? And obviously it just so happens that this is Red Bull's home race as well. Perez obviously had a bit of a sort of rough start to the season, and then has had two or three very, very good races recently. Obviously with the win and then the podium last week. But when I don't know about you, but when I saw him going in qualifying, or the start of qualifying today, it just seemed like it was his first time driving the Red Bull again. And he just didn't seem that confident in it. It was like he was braking early and perhaps accelerating a bit later, and he just seemed off the pace. I believe it was Q1. He was the driver at risk for a lot of Q1. He was right down in 15th, and then obviously I think he went through in about P8 or P9, I think. So obviously he made it through, and then Q2, it was a bit touch and go, and yes, he did top the timesheets at Q2, but he was also running the soft, whereas his teammate and both Mercs were running the medium tires. And then it was a decent lap. I mean, I'm looking at the timings here. He did a 104.1, and Max did a 103.8. So he's close, but if you're Christian Horner, you're probably wanting him sort of like P3, splitting the Mercedes, or well, you really want him P2, but at the very least, you want him P3 or P4, splitting the Mercedes, just so you're forcing their hand a bit come race time. Especially as he's going to be on a different strategy as well, because obviously he's starting on the soft, and I think he's got one fewer set of mediums this weekend as well. Yeah,
that's all correct. He will start on the softs tomorrow. He'll really want to get past Lando Norris because that's the only guy ahead of him on the same tyres. But we'll see what happens with that. I mean, Perez, we all know how we can make a set of tyres last. It wouldn't surprise me at all if he does a one stop while the other guys do a two stop. But we'll see how it goes, because it was meant to rain this weekend, like I said on the preview show. And yet again, it hasn't
rained.
It hasn't rained. Every forecast said it was going to tip it down. It was going to be thunderstorms on Saturday today. And it's been bright sunshine. Perfect weather. Like...
I know, it's just, and it'll be F1's luck that it'll probably start raining. It's probably right now, sort of like an hour or two after qualifying. That's usually what happens. But yeah, that's a good point actually about the rain. If it does rain tomorrow and everybody starts on inters or wets, that throws strategy out the window, and we could see something else.
It does. It equalizes it all, doesn't it? So that'll be very interesting to see. We love a good wet race at the end of the day.
Yes.
But even if it's a dry race, there's big potential for this to be a good one. And so far, it has been a very good weekend for Pierre Gasly. Owain, P6 in the AlphaTauri, less than a tenth of a second behind Sergio Perez, well ahead of Charles Leclerc in seventh. Again, we keep saying about the guy, like Lando Norris, he's just putting in the performances consistently up there, and he's probably going to score very solid points again tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a sort of performance that if he'd come in as a rookie and was in the car, then we'd be praising him as basically the next world champion.
Yeah, get him in the Red Bull.
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, what was played out in the past is played out, and he's in that second seat, and clearly it's working for him and it's working for them, because the AlphaTauri is fast. It seems to, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of information sharing a little bit. There must be certain amounts that goes across between the junior and the senior team, but. The AlphaTauri doing it purely on merit. Gasly's having a great run. He was topping the timing screens at times in Q1 and Q2, and that wasn't just the fact that he went out first. There was genuine pace in the car, and we've seen this quite a lot. I just hope that they don't go backwards in the race. I mean, luckily that they've got Leclerc behind, who may well go backwards just based on how the Ferrari is. But there's a good start compared to maybe a couple of the guys in front of him. I think it'll be Bottas in front of him. Bottas maybe could make a bad start. We've seen that before, and Gasly's then mixing it up there with the big three teams at the top. Like that's entirely feasible, and I kind of hope we see it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's amazing to see. The guy is just reborn in that AlphaTauri. He's just consistently up there, qualifying, race, everything. And that AlphaTauri car is really going to suit the Red Bull ring as well. He's got the Honda engine just like the Red Bulls do. And yeah, very quick along those long straights. And who knows, again, if it rains, he's very talented there as well, I believe as well. So we'll see what happens with all that. But yeah, like Owain mentioned there, Charles Leclerc in seventh place, a distant seventh place, it must be said, from the top six, Tom. And, it's a real crash back down to earth for them at the end of the day. I mean, they obviously had the back-to-back pole positions in Monaco and Azerbaijan, but since then, they've not quite been at the same level. And if they have a repeat of the tyre issues they had in France, they could be in big trouble tomorrow.
Yeah, it's Ferrari are very much back, I think, where everybody expected them to be this season. The pole positions they had, if the sessions would have played out sort of like all the way to the end, if Leclerc wouldn't have crashed in Monaco, and then if Snowden wouldn't have had his accident in Baku, then I think there's a good chance that Ferrari wouldn't have had any poles this season. It's just Leclerc obviously has very, very good one lap pace. He is obviously an extremely talented driver, but the Ferrari is just, they're going to struggle this weekend. If we look at them last week in France, where they fell so far. I mean, I think strategy partly played a role in that, but yeah, Leclerc starting seventh. I could see Tsunoda getting past him because that Honda engine, as we've mentioned, has got some serious grunt in the back of it. Leclerc might be lucky if he stays in the points this weekend. Maybe scrape a 9th or 10th.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? The Ferrari is a lot better car than last year, obviously, but Charles Leclerc, he'll do very, very well to repeat his podium, his second place that he got there last year. Obviously, that was an insane race, but, he kept his nose clean and he absolutely earned it. One of the drivers of the season last season, that was, but I don't think he's going to repeat that this weekend. So yeah, we'll move on to Yuki Snowden, Owain, and now he qualified in 8th position. It's good. He's in the top 10 again. But will he start in the top 10? Because he's under investigation at the moment, I believe, for potentially impeding Valtteri Bottas in Q3.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. I mean, I'll sort of break this into two parts. Talking about the lap, it's a good lap. It's not as close to Gasly as you'd really want, but I think for someone who's only been in the car a few races, he maybe goes better at this track. He's getting to grips with it. He's understanding where he can push it, where pushing it will put you over the limit. And Tsunoda sort of, he said he got lucky in Bahrain. I think I mentioned previously that he realised he needed to put the work in a couple of podcasts ago, but he seems to be doing that now, and by the looks of things, it seems to be paying off. That said, he's maybe not got the guile of or the racecraft of maybe one of the more experienced drivers, and if he's under investigation for blocking or for impeding, I think that sort of kind of becomes a slam dunk. And what's that, a 3-place grid drop usually? That's the minimum I think they can give. It could be more.
Yeah, I think that's what Hamilton got last year. Didn't he get done for blocking in qualifying?
Yeah. Yes, and I believe he got points on his penalty points on his license as well for that.
Yeah, I mean, neither of those things you want to give to Tsunoda, unfortunately, but that's the way things are. Hopefully, he learns from it if he does get put with the penalty. But otherwise, it's a good performance. But obviously, that opens up the door for some of the runners lower down actually, and might make their day. So, he's inadvertently made something a bit more interesting. But it'll be disappointing if he did get that.
Yeah, we could well see George Russell starting in the top 10, believe it or not. He had a hell of a day today. We'll get onto him soon. One of the guys behind Yuki Tsunoda is Fernando Alonso, Tom. And again, he's been slowly building up in his comeback. He's been getting better race on race, in my opinion. And he's starting in the top 10 legitimately. And he's absolutely smoked his teammate this weekend so far.
Yeah, Alonso had a pretty good day in the office today. Strung together some good laps, got progressively quicker as each session went on, and each lap from Q1 to Q2 to Q3 was quicker as well. So that shows good progression. I mean, obviously track evolution plays a part in that, but yeah, I think he's probably just about done as much as he can with that car. I mean, he's got the 2 AlphaTauris ahead of him, but again, with that Honda grunt, I don't think even a man of Alonso's caliper was going to get past them. I think he's on for a decent race result tomorrow. Probably a good 7th, I'd say, in front of Leclerc and maybe Tsunoda.
Yeah, form is temporary, class is permanent. I didn't think he'd get points in France after the first few laps, but
neither did I.
He stuck in there. He kept it in. I think he got 8th or 9th in the end or something like that. So, yeah, brilliant by him. And yeah, he's got some great raw pace in that Alpine around a track where they shouldn't really be that good, to be honest. You expect them to struggle with that Renault engine in the back of the car with all those straights, but there we go. Now, weirdly, Owain, I think the guy in 10th place will be disappointed to get into the top 10. It's Lance Stroll. He's just scraped in there. He's got to 10th, but he will not be able to start on alternate tyres. I think he'll have to start on the softs, which goes against what has made Aston Martin good in these last few races, really.
Yeah, it's sort of a blessing and a curse to make it into the top 10, but only just and only on softs. It's the sort of thing where you really want to scrape in on mediums, and then maybe get a 10th place if you're in the car that's sort of similar speed to the Aston. But unfortunately, the person that he's in no man's land essentially. He's not high enough to. He's going to be right in the middle of the pack, so he's vulnerable to any incidents that may happen T1 or T2, and then he's got the double whammy of he's got tires that could last very, very few laps on a hot Austrian circuit tomorrow. That said, degradation is low, but if the pace is enough to wear them out, he's going to be sort of on the sort of he's going to get the short end of the stick essentially. It's if he makes this kind of gains he made last week, that could well be. We could be heralding. It could be heralding him for the win. Sorry, but it's a difficult place to go forward from. I think for Stroll, I think they can do it. That's it's always possible, but I think it is quite difficult.
It's not easy, but he does have the Mercedes engine in the back of the car, but he will not be able to start on the mediums or the hards, like I'm sure his teammate will do tomorrow. But we'll see what happens with that. Next up, we've got George Russell, Tom, and 11th place in the Williams. Brilliant performance. I think he was 8/1000ths of getting into Q3 in what is probably the second worst car on the grid. Yeah, fantastic, and you never know. If there's a few retirements ahead of him, we could get that fabled point for George Russell at last.
Oh, how many times have we spoken about George Russell on that ill-fabled first point?
Every single race for at least the last year and a half.
And I mean, if we put his substitute appearance for Mercedes aside, even that was cursed. Yes, he's what a performance by Russell. That Williams is definitely not as bad as perhaps the Williams of sort of 2019, should we say? But yeah, it's certainly sort of not. It's not really a midfield car, and he putting an outstanding performance again. There's a reason they called him Mr. Saturday. He can. I believe it was either Crofty or Martin Brundle said on the Sky commentary when they were following his lap round. They said it looks like a video game, the way he was going around, because he was just inch perfect on every single lap he did. Or every corner he hit, every line, every apex. He was completely fluid as he was going around, and yeah. Plus, obviously, with if Snowden gets a penalty, put him up to P10, free tyre choice, starting in the top 10. He could. I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx it, because that seems to happen every time with him at the moment. But yeah, could this be the ill-fabled George Russell point for Williams?
It's all down to the race pace. That's the thing. Because we always talk about the peaky downforce in the Williams. It works well in qualifying. I think they said as well today in the commentary that Russell's got through to Q2 every race.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah,
Williams, that's extremely impressive. I didn't realize that. That's incredible consistency. But yeah, it does relatively well in qualifying, but in dirty air in the race with worn tires,
they just go backwards.
They do. France last week. I swear Russell lost about 4 places in the first few laps. It was like, what's happened here? What's gone on?
Yeah, that Williams just seems to struggle to follow. Which with all due respect to Williams, with the state they're in at the moment, you'd expect them to make a car which can follow, because they're probably used to being behind most traffic on the track. I'm not an air engineer, obviously, but yeah. So I was surprised that Williams went with a sort of peaky downforce setup this year, but also maybe they're thinking last year the regulations before 2022 comes in. They might have thought, just give it a bash, see what happens. Hopefully Russell can sneak something, but I think my heart says he'll finish P10 and get a point. My head says he's going to drop to about P14.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen. But you never know. Something could surprise us with this. So I'm hopeful for him, but I'm not expecting a point to finish tomorrow. But whatever happens, he's going to try his best, and he's going to get the most out of that Williams that's possible. Another guy that's going to be looking to move forward tomorrow will be Carlos Sainz, Owain, and just again, Ferrari struggling relatively. It's not going to be their best track, but it's still disappointing to see him not in the top 10.
Yeah, it's sort of it's going to be it's annoying for Sainz in that he's looking at where his old teammate was and thinking, I could have been there. He must be. I think. Ferrari obviously has sort of landed back to earth with a bump, and it's he's down in 12th, and his teammate's not much higher, to be honest. So I think it's a decent performance, but I think it's probably closer to where the car is than anything else. Bar an amazing performance by Leclerc up there. So there's a saving grace in sort of a poetic irony that he's above Ricciardo. But so it could just be that he's new guy to the team, and that's still sort of working its way through. I just don't think that he can. I don't think he has a real hope of making it forward. because the Ferrari off the start, it's fine. But the problem with Austria, obviously, is that it's completely different in nature to the previous tracks that we've been to. You know, the strengths of the Ferrari seem to be sort of low end grunt through the corners, which is where they sort of made where they had a lot of speed in at Monaco and in Baku. Obviously, we saw glimpses of why that doesn't work so well in France, and I think it's going to be worse at Austria because obviously then you've got you've got high speed corners as well with no real big stops. So it's a much more flowing track, and I think that is going to be sort of the antithesis or the antidote to Ferrari's any speed that they might have in the race. So I think it's all backwards. So to maintain his position would be a good result, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will potentially move forward, get low points, but it's asking a lot, especially if they have the tyre troubles like they did in France. But Sainz has got a history. I swear he started at the back once and got like P6, and was it 2019, something like that. He can move forward in the field, but that Ferrari is a different beast to the McLaren he used to have. So, but yeah, speaking of McLaren, Tom, and I honestly thought after France that this is it. This is the Ricciardo we all know and love. Then he goes and gets 13th. Unlucky for him during the qualifying. I just didn't expect it. I knew he was struggling, but until he was actually out, I thought, no, you'll get up there. Norris is getting really good results here, but just not there for Ricciardo. And he's got, and the worst for him in a way, he's got to do it all again next week.
Oh, Danny Rick, yeah, he's not having the best of times in that McLaren. Yeah, I think it was FP2. He might have had a decent result, or maybe it was FP3 this morning. I can't remember offhand, but yeah, he's been fairly anonymous all weekend, and then he was at risk, or he might have even been in the bottom 5 in Q1 for a bit. He certainly wasn't anywhere near the top like his teammate is, and then to go out, P13 when his teammate finished P4 on the road is starting P3. Yeah, it's I don't know what to say about Danny Rick. I just want to sort of say this. Imagine if this was like Albon last year, and say for example Verstappen was qualified third and Albon was 13th. I'm sure Gasly had that in his first race for Red Bull in Australia. He didn't make it out of Q2. Mm-hmm. Imagine if it was that second Red Bull seat, people would be out there with their pitchforks in droves. But yeah, Danny Rick, I really hope he can sort of hook it together. But like you said, George, 2 races back to back in the same circuit. I don't know whether the tires are the same next week or if they're a step harder or softer. Whether if there is a difference in tires next week, whether that will help or not, we will see. But yeah, he's got a tough day tomorrow to at least salvage a point.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I think he will probably get into the points tomorrow.
Definitely.
And what's encouraging for McLaren as well is that they didn't. Ricciardo didn't qualify quite this badly. I think he was out in Q2 again in France, actually, wasn't he? I think he's done it 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I think he was Q11 in France, P11 even in France.
Yeah.
I can't remember offhand.
Yeah, it was 8th and 11th, I think, now, because I did the qualifying show, the race show for that. So, but yeah, so if he repeats that kind of race pace, he could well be up there. He could well be up there in 6th or 7th by the end of tomorrow, which is not a bad result, all things considered, especially where Ferrari are likely to be as well. I think it could be a very good haul of points for McLaren this weekend, but it'd be tough for Ricciardo to get a lot. But yeah, so a guy that probably will move up as well, Owain, tomorrow is Sebastian Vettel, P14. It's a bad qualifying. There's no getting away from it. But if they stick him on the hards or stick him on the mediums and run him long, he could well end up in the points again tomorrow.
Yeah, he seems right for the alternate strategy, and he's in the sort of correct place on the grid. He's not too far back, but he's far back enough that you really do need to think about not sort of in the long term gains rather than the sort of short term 1 lap stuff that you can do off the start. Sorry about that. But yeah, no, he really needs to be having a go. sort of later into the race, and hope for a sort of a good fuel strategy. Not good fuel strategy. Goodness, that's a long time ago, isn't it? A good tyre strategy can take him forwards. Can take him forwards and see what he can get later in the race. Apologise for that. Just got a tug at the door.
It's all right. So let's see what happens with Vettel. He's definitely got potential, but yeah, it's a little bit further back than he would have wanted to start. Yeah, I think he'd start like 13th though in Azerbaijan. He ended up getting second, so anything's possible from there for him. Someone who will really struggle to score points tomorrow will be Antonio Giovanazzi, Tom. I mean, Alfa Romeo, they've not been good this season, obviously, but and Giovanazzi's doing the best he can. He's outqualified Raikkonen, but can't really see much from these guys tomorrow.
No, Giovanazzi this season, I think, has been a lot better than he was in 2019 and 2020. He seems to be a lot more consistent, and he hasn't had as many sort of spins on accidents as he previously has had. And he is out-qualifying Kimi on a fairly regular basis. But yeah, I can't see him getting much this weekend. With that Ferrari power unit in the back, they're gonna, that's probably the worst power unit on the grid at the moment. They're gonna struggle around here, because we've got essentially 3 long straights, and then a sort of like medium speed middle sector. Yeah, he's done well to get P15. He was just out of Q1 at the expense of Latifi. I felt very, very bad for Latifi because he put in a stellar lap at the end of Q1, which we'll talk about in a moment. But Giovanazzi, it's almost about damage limitation for Alfa Romeo this week and next.
Yeah, Alfa Romeo, they'll struggle to get forward as well, like you said, because the long straights, the Ferrari power unit, it does not suit their car. But, Gio's doing all he can. He's beating his teammate. How good his teammate is very debatable. I think Raikkonen's still decent, but I also think he's probably best retiring after this year. His best years are definitely behind him. But it's a decision at the end of the day. But yeah, you mentioned Nicholas Latifi there, Tom, and just a hell of a lap, like you say, in Q1. I mean, I think he went to like P8, something like that.
Yeah, he was P8.
Yeah, P8 ended up sliding down to P16 out in Q1, but still, Owain, I think it's a good day for him overall.
Yeah, no, I thought it was great for Latifi, to be honest. I was just surprised that I think he's actually I think they've set the Williams up in a certain way. They found maybe a sort of golden setup for them, and it seems to be working. It's Latifi seems to always be on the sort of uncomfortable end. Not so maybe so technically gifted as George at getting the car around, but he's done a really good job. I think like you say, he's unlucky to get into Q3. Not Q3, Q2. Sorry, he's really not that far away. And he's sort of 0.08 of a second, which I guess a tenth, a hundredth on every corner really around Austria. He could have done it, and I think he looks like he can go forward. He was getting up there and put a lap in Q1. I think you mentioned that really put the worries on a lot of teams. They were thinking, oh no, the track evolution is such that we could go out here. We could not make it through. Ultimately, that didn't end up coming to anything, unfortunately. But he did a really, really good job, and I think I don't think it's a sign of him to be really getting really becoming racy and causing issues for those in front. But I think it just shows that sometimes if you get some things right, you can really, really have a fast car. And I hope it continues in the race because he's got the ability. He's a solid racing driver, and he's definitely got the ability to steal some places in front of him.
Absolutely, he's got potential. I think he's an underrated driver, Latifi, a bit like Giovanazzi. He's not helped by his car, but this year I'd say he's improved solidly. And obviously, Latifi got P11. I mean, aka last in the Austrian Grand Prix last year, but he's still there. He kept his nose clean, so it's not a bad circuit for him by any means. And look, I mean, Latifi almost into Q2, Russell almost into Q3. Very nearly moments for Williams, but they both have fresh tyres tomorrow, so that's encouraging for him. And they both start ahead of Esteban Ocon, Tom. I mean, it's only been 2 races since he signed his new deal with his team, but ever since then, he has fell off the Grand Canyon. Like, it's amazing to see.
Oh, I know, and yeah, I was singing Ocon's praises earlier this season. Up until Baku, obviously he had a mechanical failure in Baku, so so that's an anomaly on his record this year. But as yeah, you're absolutely right. Ever since he signed that bumper contract, and as I mentioned on the EF1 podcast last week, it was always going to be that Netflix curse at a French driver at a French race for a French team having signed a contract. That's when it all starts to go downhill for him. Then to be 17th out in Q1. I can't remember if he went out again after Latifi set that absolute stormer. I don't think he did, because looking at the F1 website, which I've got here next to me, he only did 6 laps in Q1, and I think that includes an out lap, hot lap, and then cool down, maybe even 2 cool down laps, because some drivers were doing 2 cool down laps. So it doesn't look like he went out again, or well, it doesn't really matter, because even if he did, he wasn't quick enough. And yes, whilst the Alpine is not sort of like at the front, his teammate got into Q3. His teammate starts in P9 ahead of Lance Stroll, ahead of Mr. Saturday, ahead of some cars that have got very, very good engines in the back of them. And yeah, he'll be disappointed with that. But having said that, I think he will certainly make his way past Latifi, Giovanazzi. He could end up having a bit of a ding dong with Vettel and Ricciardo, who are obviously 14th and 13th, respectively. I can't see him getting into the points really, but I think we could see him getting up to about sort of P12, P11 area, and then see a few drivers slide the other way.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will move forward. I mean, the only way is up when you've got Kimi Räikkönen and the 2 Haas behind you. You'd struggle to do worse than in the race tomorrow.
Yeah.
But also the other thing is that the Alpine's engine has to hold. It's not exactly been the most reliable thing, and if it's hot weather as well tomorrow, then we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, like I already mentioned, Kimi Räikkönen P18. There's really nothing to say about him. I mean, he's another guy who could move forward, but not what you want to see. Not what you want to see. Not what he wants to see either. So we'll end it with the 2 Haas drivers, Owain. Unsurprisingly, they're both at the back. Schumacher beats Voldemort. It's just copy and paste, really. It's the same every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, as long as Schumacher beats Mazepin, that's good for him. And we got another one to add to the counter in practice. So that's a good thing for all the people keeping a tally of how many times you can see the rear end of car number 9. So yeah, no, I mean, it's as good to Steiner was sort of saying. We sit there and wait on the pit wall for you to come and talk to us, Crofty. But apart from that, we're gonna go out in Q1 and we haven't developed the car, like they're admitting it. So I don't see, but bar some weather condition intervention. I don't see actually them doing much more forwards than that. That's it really for the Haas as a car. It's they're well aware of where it is. They're well aware of why it is where it is. There's not so much an issue with it, apart from the fact that they haven't developed it, and that's an issue of their own making. But they're well aware of why they've caused that issue, and it's one of those things where you hope it pays off for them. Although financially speaking, I think they'll probably be okay. So yeah, they need a bit of rain to go forwards in any capacity, I think, and that's about it really.
Yeah, they need a bit of rain, but when it rains, it pours. When you're doing bad in Formula One, it just keeps going that way. But it's all their own fault, and at least they're admitting it. At least they're honest about it. But yeah, I really would not expect anything from them tomorrow. They don't even have the Williams in sight really. Latifi and Russell are way up there. So even if they fall back, they've got a decent gap to those guys. I think honestly, with how short of a lap it is in Austria, without safety cars and stuff, we could easily see the Haas lap 4 or 5 times tomorrow. We really could do. But, yeah, so those are the 20 drivers. I will give a shout out as well. I mean, I gave a shout out to a review earlier on. We don't normally give a shout out to YouTube comments, but this one is particularly lovely. So thank you very much to Jennifer Handley Bridges for commenting with this. She said, awesome episode. Really enjoy the commentary. I'm a new American fan. My husband has followed Formula One for many years. Drive to Survive got me interested last year, and now I subscribe to the F1 channel. Never miss a practice, quali, or race. I'm so happy to have found this podcast so I can relive and review the race and preview the upcoming race. Every guest is knowledgeable, articulate, insightful. It's so difficult to find much Formula One commentary here in the USA. Such a shame it's not blowing away boring old oval racing NASCAR. That's her words, not mine. I'm not criticizing it. Please keep up the amazing work you're doing here. I absolutely love the podcast. That is such a nice comment. This is why we do this at the end of the day. We want to bring you guys entertainment. We want to bring you guys, insights and stuff that you might have missed. I mean, I love coming on the show because I always find out something from our panelists that I've missed usually during one of these races or qualifying. And like Jennifer said, we do have 3 shows every race weekend. So that's a grand total of 69 for the season. And we have Turkey coming back as well. So that's the mystery race solved. That's Singapore's gap plugged. We've already covered Turkey and what it can bring and all that. So we don't really need to cover that. But I will give a mention to Agora Drive in Russia, Tom. So from 2023, we won't be going to Sochi anymore.
Yes. Oh, no.
Fantastic news. This is what we love. Abu Dhabi's getting a makeover. Sochi's on the way out. Just need to not go to Saudi Arabia and Miami, really. That's it. But what's kind of your reaction to Agora Drive? Do you think it'd be a better spectacle than Sochi?
Well, it's not hard to be better than Sochi, is it? Let's be fair. Sochi's a weird one. Now, the racing has always been pretty dull, and I mean, the only sort of highlights we had last year was when Bottas used some rather colourful language on the radio after he won the race, after obviously Hamilton had his penalty. Yeah, Russia is funny. I've always enjoyed playing it on the Formula One game, but when it comes to watching the race in person, I think it's probably because it's not really got any elevation changes. It's very, very flat, and it's just a bit uninspiring. But this Agora Drive, I got to be honest, I'd never heard of it before the announcement earlier this morning about us going there, and I'm not too up to scratch on my Russian Grade 1 license tracks. It's not a topic I'd have on Mastermind, but yeah, it's another Tilke circuit, so we know what to expect. There's going to be some sort of sharp turns, some sort of like medium corners, and then a couple of heavy braking zones. Having looked at it, a concern I have is it going to be wide enough? Because if the circuit itself isn't wide enough, the cars, it's just going to turn into another Monaco. But obviously, we will have different spec cars from 2022, so who knows? We will see. I'm excited for change. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it is. I think it's a definite improvement, and something that it's got as well, like you said, the long straights, the heavy braking zones. It's very Tilke, but that does promote overtaking. There is 2 long straights back to back, the pit straight and the back straight, into fairly heavy braking zones. So we should see some passes there. That is something. And as well, obviously, it's kind of cool to have it on a place like the old Winter Olympics thing. But for me, it looks so dull. Even though the weather's always nice at Sochi, it just looks terrible. At least Agora Drive looks like it's in a bit of countryside. I think it's miles and miles from Moscow. It's listed as being Moscow, but it's miles and miles from there. So it is good to see. It's good to see them doing something different. I think even Putin's obviously realized, all right, we want to have the best race we can. This Sochi circuit, everybody hates it. Let's get a better one. Yeah. So I think they've had DTM there before, and it's been good racing. So
they have, yes. Agora Drive is about 70 kilometers north of St. Petersburg.
Okay.
Yes, it's. I don't know offhand how far it is from Moscow, but it's certainly a fair distance from Moscow. Yeah, so St. Petersburg is the sort of closest.
Right.
Am I the only person that when they saw that it was going to St. Petersburg, I thought we were going to get the one of the tracks off Project Gotham Racing 4? Showing me age on the racing games there, but
at least we've not got St. Petersburg, Florida. At least because they did race IndyCar there, don't they? Can you imagine if F1 went there?
Yeah.
I don't think that would be that bad, actually.
Better than Miami. Better than Miami. They should do the Florida Grand Prix there. I'd rather it St. Petersburg than this new Miami track.
Cash is king.
Cash is unfortunately king. Yeah, he's not wrong. He's definitely not wrong. But yeah, let's choose our men of qualifying, our drivers of qualifying, our drivers of Saturday, our Mr. Saturdays, whatever you want to call them. And I'm going to give it to Mr. Saturday himself. I'm going to give it to George Russell. I think he did an unbelievable job to get so close to Q3, literally less than 100th of a second away from Q3 in the Williams. I think that's a monumental effort, and he's my driver of today. He's my Mr. Saturday. Owain, who's your choice?
It's got to be Gasly for me, to be honest. I think he's really mixing it up there and taking spots that certain people like Ricciardo probably should be in, but aren't.
100%, yeah. Ricciardo should definitely be in the top 6 today, but he's not done it. Tom, who's your pick?
I would have given it to Mr. Saturday had he made it to Q3. However, I'm going to give it to Lando Norris because he is only 2/10 behind Lewis Hamilton. One of the greatest of all time, and yeah, Lando again, fantastic day.
Not even that, half a tenth less than
half a
10th of a
tenth,
second.
was it?
Yeah. Hamilton 0.226 off pole, Norris 0.279, so half a tenth of a second. That's a ridiculous effort for a customer team as well. McLaren are a customer team of Mercedes. For him to get that close is unbelievable. That's an unbelievable effort. It really is. So yeah, I'll give you guys a chance to plug your outlets as well. So Tom, I mentioned that you're in the EF1 podcast, but where is that, and are you anywhere else?
Yes, so EF1, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Discord, and also our EF1 podcast, which is available on all your regular podcast listening platforms. We go by the handle at Join EF1. Also, you can find us at everythingf1.com.
Yeah, those guys have a great podcast. I always listen to it every week, and Tom does go on there every now and again. Owain, where can people find you?
Well, if you'd like a less than serious sort of roundup of the race events, I can give you some. I round up the memes. That's my thing that I usually do with all walks of life. So why not apply it to F1? You can get that on sportlightpro.com.
Fantastic. Yeah, Owain does them every race, and they're always entertaining to go through. And people love them at the end of the day. That's the main thing. And if you love us, if you like the show, then please head over to iTunes and give us a 5-star review. I gave some people some shout outs today for some nice comments and some nice reviews, and that could be you next week as well, or even tomorrow if you get it in time. We have over 100 subscribers on YouTube now. We're really starting to get some momentum on there. It's fantastic to see. So please head over to the F1 Grid Talks YouTube. We also obviously we live stream it on there as well. So if you have any questions you want to ask us, and we'll answer them after the show. That's what it is for every single show. We're also available on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Verbal, Omni Studio, Pocket Cast, and the F1 Chronicles website. Just search for the F1 Grid Talk and all those, and you'll get to check out our massive back catalogue of shows now. Over 100 of them on there. And it's not just the race previews, the qualifying, and the race reviews. It's also more documentary style ones as well, like Ayrton Senna, the best drivers from a particular year, Tire Gay, 1994 Benetton Conspiracy, and Michael Schumacher, and more. And yes, we will be back tomorrow to review the Styrian Grand Prix from 5 o'clock BST. Thank you very much for joining us, lads. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, George.
Oh, yeah, so I was going to say, not a problem.
And yes, we'll be back tomorrow from 5, like I said, to review Styria. Hopefully it's a great race tomorrow. Austria definitely has big potential after this qualifying. We'll see you for that one. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There we go. The recording stopped, but we're still going out live on YouTube. So
I hate to duck out, but I really have to go.
You need to duck out. Okay, no worries, mate.
Right. See you guys.
See you later, pal.
Good show.
Let's see if we have any comments. Sometimes we don't get them. Sometimes we do. It's real potluck. See if we get some. I always like to answer them though. It's good to see people commenting. So then, come on. What's the honest thoughts? What do you think about Wales today against Denmark? Do you think they'll do it or?
I think if Denmark had Eriksson, then we'd be the odds probably wouldn't be in our favour. I don't want to sound like I'm letting off a conspiracy by saying this, but buckle in. But it does seem a bit that Denmark can have fans and it's in their stadium, and it does feel like a few things have gone against us for this. But it's a situation we're in, and if we can hold out for 30 minutes or 40 minutes, however long it was against Italy, with 10 men and not concede, then all it takes is a bit of Bale and Ramsey magic, or perhaps Dan James sprinting down the wing, popping in a nice little cross, and then perhaps Kiefer Moore or someone getting their head on it, and in it goes.
That's all it takes at the end of the day. I think that's going to be the difference. I think Ramsey and Wales are going to, Ramsey and Bale are going to be a difference for Wales. I feel they do. I think they're quality, and I don't think Denmark have really got anybody on their level apart from like Kasper Schmeichel. I think he's an amazing goalkeeper.
So we're really going to have to make any shots at goal. They're really going to have to count. If we have another situation, where there's a penalty, obviously, we all saw what Bale did against was it against Turkey where he skied it? I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was. I just remember because we were 1-0 up anyway. But we can't let opportunities like that go begging. It's we're not in the group stage anymore. It's win or lose. And you've got to take the opportunities that are presented to us, and then equally we have to sort of like stifle any potential counterattack. It's a cliche thing, but we've got to keep our shape.
Yeah.
And then I'll throw the Uno reverse card then. Go on then. England against Germany. God, if it goes to penalties.
Oh no! Don't even say that. Hey, we won our last penalty shootout though.
You did. To be fair.
Beat Colombia on penalties. First time since the 90s that we won a penalty shootout, which is really saying something. But I'll quickly go back to F1 just for a sec. We can talk about this after. But we did get a comment from Connor Walker. He's always on here. Connor, thank you. You're a legend, mate. Honestly, you're always commenting on this. You're always watching it. He's just put my guy Ocon letting me down again, and massive letdown. I think the guy does have talent. He's shown that earlier this season. He's shown it other times, but it seems like he's just completely let up since he's got that deal, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's almost like he's thinking, oh well, I've got a multi-year deal, so I'll just take my foot off the proverbial gas. But we've how many races have we got before the break? We got Austria.
We've got one more. Well, we've got Styria, Austria, Britain, Hungary. It's 4, including the one tomorrow.
Yeah. So maybe a 3-week break might help our compounds reset a bit.
Maybe,
who knows?
Yeah. Maybe he's got talent for sure, but I was shocked to see him re-sign for that long. And if this form continues, Alpine are going to be kicking themselves on why they didn't get Gasly, because he'd 100% go. He'd 100% go to that team, I think.
Well, how long do you think it is before Gasly moves from AlphaTauri to? I'm leaning down for this one because this is, Gasly is my boy, right? I love Pierre Gasly. He didn't have a very good time at Red Bull. I think he was promoted too soon. I think he needed another year, perhaps do some tests in that Red Bull, because it's a different beast, and going up against Max Verstappen is no easy feat.
No,
but he's not going to want to stay in that AlphaTauri forever. He has proved how good he is as a driver, and there's going to come a point where he's going to want to. Want to get a car that can fight more or less at the front, and that's. I presume he's your drive to survive. That's not going to be Red Bull.
Yeah, he's not going back to that Red Bull. And then you think where he's going to go? I mean, potentially if Ricciardo continues to struggle at McLaren, I know he's signed on for years, and I don't think they're going to get rid of him hastily. That's not what they do. They're going to give him a couple of years at least. So maybe McLaren, perhaps, but I don't know. Ferrari have got a very young lineup. I don't think they're going to change from Leclerc and Sainz for some time. Well, and then you think who's left that can win? Who's better than AlphaTauri? Well, those are the only teams that are ahead of him at the moment in the constructors, apart from Mercedes, and he's not going to go there.
Well, you say that. Just imagine the scenes. Hamilton. Verstappen wins the title this year. Hamilton goes into 2022, wraps up an 8th world title alongside George Russell, and calls it a day. Free spot Mercedes.
You know what? You got a point actually, because Hamilton.
I said this before. I mean, I just massaging my proverbial crystal ball here, but but yeah, Dazzy, I could see him. I could see it, but would you also then want two relatively young drivers next to each other in a top team like that? But on the flip side, I mean. Ferrari are doing it. This is the first season that Ferrari haven't had a world champion in their ranks since I can't remember when. But but if you look at it in the past, they've had Raikkonen, Schumacher, Vettel, and then before that they had.
I think it was 2007 before Raikkonen has won his title. That was the last time they didn't have champions. And then obviously Raikkonen won it that year, so he became a champion.
Yeah.
So I think that was the last time, actually. Yeah, you're right. It's been a long time.
Yeah, because obviously the Schumacher period goes... When did he join Ferrari? Was that 97?
96. And then he went... Obviously, he was already a double champion by then.
When he joined, yeah, because he had the 2 championships with Benetton. But, yeah, two young drivers might not be a bad thing. I mean, we've seen how good George Russell is anyway. He had his outing in Mercedes last year, but also the W11 from last year was something else. With Das, and before we had the slight aero changes to.
He outperformed Bottas though, who had a whole season in that car. That's bloody impressive. That.
Yeah, but what people don't necessarily mention from that race is. Obviously, Russell got stung at the pit stop. So Bottas's tyres. So Bottas was out there on old hard tyres. So he was perhaps left out to dry a little bit. The tyres he had on, there was no way he was going to hold up Russell. He was on a set of fresh mediums anyway.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's I mean, there's no smoke without fire, and as the saying goes, and. The amount of sort of like rumors swirling about Russell going to Mercedes. I mean, it's one thing like saying, it's not going to happen, and then saying, nothing's decided. This reminds me of when all the rumors were flying around about Perez with Red Bull last year.
Yeah, you know what? Everybody's focused on what happens after Bottas, that then you don't think on what's going to happen after Hamilton, and obviously need somebody else. And yeah, if Ocon's not performing, then with all the influence on the world from Toto Wolff, he's not going to be in that car.
Isn't Toto Wolff Ocon's manager anyway?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. Yeah, so well, obviously Ocon, certainly former Mercedes junior driver. I'm not sure if he is still in the academy or not. I'm not sure if he's actually
I don't think he is. I think with that contract he signed with Alpine, I think he's gone. But he's obviously got the links there.
Yeah,
and not least for Toto Wolff as well. So,
but I also remember seeing it. I mean, again, I saw an article. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I read that Mercedes effectively don't have the power to pull Ocon out
Alpine.
Yeah, they would still have to buy him out of it.
Right.
Which, it's a 3-year deal starting next year, plus the remaining term of his 2021 contract. That would be a pretty pricey sum.
Yeah, and with the budget caps as well. I don't think they want to do that. I don't think they want to do that.
No.
But anyway, I want to watch the football now. So good luck. Hope you go.
Oh God, yeah, it's 5 o'clock. Yeah, right. I'm off into the living room.
Right. Thanks to everybody who's joining the live stream. We'll catch you for a show tomorrow. And thank you, Tom, as well. You've been excellent again on the show.
Lovely. Cheers, George. Appreciate it.
See you later.